Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Well, let me enable sound first before we continue. Okay, so today we are focusing coincidentally on one topic specifically, which is weather. I believe that was the first unit that we didn't do together because it was at the beginning of the year since we started in November. So I'm going to go over some of the questions regarding weather. And at the end, I have other random ones that some people requested I go over. Okay. So let's start. So the one question that some of you were confused about was this one. Which best describes the cause of the day-to-day weather changes? And we are going to watch a video that will help us answer this question.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No worries, we're just getting started. We're about to watch a video that will help us answer this question. Which best describes the cause of the day-to-day weather? The choices that they give us is the rotation of Earth, the size of the Earth, moving air masses, and action of the winds. So let's watch the following video that will help us answer this question. Pay close attention and then we'll talk about it to answer it.
Have you ever wondered why we have different seasons depending on where you go during a certain time of the year?
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Or how about why we have certain wind currents? All these things have a lot to do with the way the Earth is shaped and how the sun hits it at a given time. First off, the sun's rays are responsible for heating up the planet. However, because of the Earth's curved surface, the sun rays don't hit everywhere equally. In places where rays hit at an angle, the distance covered might be greater, but the intensity of the light would be less. An easy way to understand this concept is if you took a flashlight and shone it down at a table. Straight down, you would get a different result than if you tilted it. Same goes for the Earth. Unequal light means unequal heating of the Earth. In addition, the Earth has a tilt of 23 degrees, giving us distinct seasons. For example, in June, the northern hemisphere is closer to the sun, which makes it peak summer. The southern hemisphere, however, is farther away from the sun, giving it colder climate. Now, it's important to make a distinction between climate.
Okay, up to this part, do you have any questions?
Yeah, it said day-to-day weather changes.
Mm-hmm.
So but that's more like seasons. So
Mm-hmm. Oops. Yeah, up to this part, it's explaining the seasons, right? They
Yeah.
tell us about the Earth's tilt and its relationship to the sun and the heat, right? When do we feel heat? Depends on where the Earth is.
But
Look,
that's not really day-to-day weather changes.
this is not day-to-day weather changes, and that's good to know, but we're not done with the video. Okay, so it's good to understand this first.
But it
Yes.
also makes you think it could have been the wind. It's probably the wind answer. Just kind of being right here because day to day, I mean, of by a fraction, a very small fraction, every day sort of gets hotter, but because of the season change in the Earth's axis, but some days it's the summertime, but you'll wake up in the middle of the summer and it's freezing because the wind blew in a cold air mass, which is a cold front, and that's kind of what distincts that.
All right,
The
let's
northern
keep
hemisphere
watching and see how that adds on to our
the
conversation.
sun. which makes it peak summer. The southern hemisphere, however, is farther away from the sun, giving it colder climate.
Why do I get rid of this
Now, it's
thing?
important to make a distinction between climate and weather. Climate is the combined long-term effects of temperature and precipitation patterns. It's climate that determines the type of environmental conditions in an area, like whether it's a desert or a grassland. Weather is short-term conditions in a particular area, whether it's sunny or cloudy or rainy. While weather can be used to determine things like what outfit to wear on a certain day, long-term pattern, or climate, is what scientists study to measure climate change. Also, the amount of rainfall in an area determines its climate, which contributes to the type of vegetation that will grow there, and consequently, the biome. Now that we have an understanding of the difference between weather and climate, let's talk about precipitation and wind currents a little bit more, and how their patterns vary across the planet. If we look at our planet, we see constant cycles of rising and falling air, which are created as a result of precipitation and temperature patterns in different latitudes. Let's start with the Hadley cell, which starts around 0 degrees and goes until 30 degrees. At the equator, the heat causes hot, humid air to rise. The evaporated water in the air falls back down as rain, making the air really dry. This hot, dry air then moves, cools, and falls back down at 30 degrees. The next cell, called the Ferrel cell, has cooled, dry air falling down at 30 degrees, which then sweep across the Earth and warm up. As it warms again, it rises around 60 degrees. The final cell, called the polar cell, has warmer air rising at 60 degrees. Similar to the Hadley cell, it starts to cool down as it travels sideways, before finally falling back down at the poles. To recap, wherever there is hot air rising, we generally have high precipitation. This translates to lower atmospheric pressure. You see vegetation-rich areas in places like this. Where there's cool air falling, the pressure is higher. Areas in these regions generally have less vegetation, like desert areas or the poles. Now, this isn't quite exact. There are a variety of other factors that also contribute, such as the Coriolis effect. But you can see how wind currents and precipitation, along with how the sun heats the Earth, contribute to the various diversity of biomes we have on our planet. So the next time you step outside, take a moment to appreciate all that goes on to making things the way they are. Thanks for watching. Want to learn?
All right. So learning that, please write on the chat what you think the best answer is. Is it the rotation of the Earth that causes the day-to-day weather changes, the size of the Earth, moving air masses, or action of the winds? All right, one more minute. I should have 3 more answers on the chat.
Hi, Miss Yanos.
Hi, Isabella. All right, let me check your answers. Okay, we have all right, pat yourselves on the back. The correct answer is C, the moving air masses. Good. So day-to-day weather changes is the moving air mass. Now the seasonal changes are caused by the rotation of the earth. And D, it is not D. I could see why you would think it's D, but the masses or you can sometimes have a cold wind on a hottish day, right? It's hot, it's blazing hot. Maybe the air mass is hot, but you can have just like a coldish wind, right? So these are two separate things. That air mass is what makes it feel like the weather that day. Any questions about that?
No.
And here we go. So there are warm air masses. There are cold masses of air. The masses of air flow about the earth. When they meet, warm air rises and cold air sinks. When air mass of different temperatures meet, we experience most of the changes in our weather. And then we have seasons because of the tilt of the earth towards the sun. Let's continue. All right, students report that the sky in the area has mostly cirrus clouds. What are most likely the weather conditions in the area? Rainy, cold, windy, or fair? Do you guys need to see something to support your answer, or do you think you can answer this question without looking at anything?
I don't need to look at anything.
Okay,
Neither do I.
okay. So let me see your answers without looking at something. I'll give you a minute to post the answer that you think it is. Right, two more answers. Take a smart guess. Okay. Okay, so there's some mixed answers here. So let's look at something that will help us clear it out. So we are confused between B and C. But let's go look at what cirrus clouds are. Right, this means we really need to look at this. The types of clouds, there's cumulus. The weather conditions often mean that the weather will be sunny. Cirrus clouds are big and wispy and tuffy and patchy, and it does not precipitate. They are at high, medium, or low altitude. The cirrus clouds are short, detached, hair-like clouds found at high altitudes. After seeing this, let's read a little more as well. Okay, these delicate clouds are wispy. In the daytime, they are wider than any other cloud in the sky. While the sun is setting or rising, they may take the colors of the sunset. What weather is associated with cirrus clouds? They often form in advance of a warm front where the air mass meet at high levels, indicating a change in the weather is on its way. So it indicates that a change of weather is on its way. But while the cirrus clouds are there, what does it mean for us? Is it rainy, cold, windy, or fair? I want you to try again. And after reading that, if you're still with your answer, then write the same one. If not, then change your answer. I'll give you 2 minutes. need about 6 more answers. Okay, let me check. Okay, the correct answer for this is D. It's fair. So even though they're saying something's about to change, they're usually related to fair weather. Even though the clouds are also made of ice crystals, as it says, they are part of warm air fronts. So when you see cirrus or cumulus clouds, it usually means fair. Cumulus, probably sunny, and cirrus clouds, just fair. It's a nice day. And I will post this in case you want to go back to the types of clouds. Any other questions about that? Okay, so which best describes a hurricane? And I don't want you to answer this question because we didn't go over hurricanes. So we're going to go over it right now by watching this video. All right, so let's try answering the question. Which best describes a hurricane? A low pressure weather system, a high pressure weather system, a cold front, or a stationary front? I'll give you 2 minutes to think about it and choose an answer. I have to say I got dizzy watching the hurricane spin on the screen. I had to look away. Wow, that was fast. Okay. All right, the correct answer, just check that I have the correct one. Yeah, the correct answer is A, a low pressure system. And we saw that right in this part, which I showed again, right? Warm air rises.
Low pressure below.
And the low pressure.
Air from the surrounding areas push in and
see the low pressure, and then so it sucks in air until it grows so large that the air from the clouds, so the clouds and the water kind of join. So the correct answer for this is A. And a hurricane is a low pressure weather system.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, off topic, but I'm looking right now. I'm looking at my science test 2019 for the 5th grade EOG, and I was studying it. And there was this question I didn't answer because I didn't know it. And it says, in North Carolina, the wind is blowing from the north. If the wind changes, the direction begins to blow from the south. What will most likely result?
Which number question is that?
10 on page 5.
Okay, so we'll go over 10. Thank you. Let's finish what I had and then we can go back to that one. Now, which instrument is best used to predict weather changes? We didn't go over that, but I'm going to teach it to you right now. It's called a barometer, an instrument measuring atmospheric pressure, the weight of the air in the atmosphere. Just always remember that the day-to-day weather patterns are caused by the change in air pressure because of the different air masses. So the one thing that would measure that, the weather, would be a barometer, right? Something that measures the air pressure. If the air pressure is rising, we know that there's a change. If the air pressure is falling, there's going to be a change in the air mass, causing a change in weather. Any questions about the barometer? These are the choices they give you. A hygrometer, an anemometer, a thermometer, or a barometer. So think the one that measures weather changes is barometer. Don't confuse that with temperature, right? If it says which instrument is best used to to tell temperature, then that's thermometer. But the weather changes or the air pressure changes is a barometer. It starts with B.
In the beginning of the year, I don't know if it was you or if it was like the other teacher. We made like a barometer using like paper and
Yeah. Yeah, there's a way to make one. I think it's here on water cycle. Yeah, there's a way to make one.
but it sort of worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't do that together. That was probably the first teacher that you had this year. So always think a barometer is that which measures air pressure or weather changes. Now let's go back to that question 10, Daniel. I didn't know you wanted to go over that, but that's fine. So it says in North Carolina, the wind is blowing from the north.
Miss Giannis, the whole
Yes.
screen is black.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I just have to make sure that I can share that. So it says in North Carolina, the wind is blowing from the north. If the wind changes direction and begins to blow from the south, what will most likely result? A, the temperature will increase. B, the temperature will decrease. C, the air pressure will increase. Or D, the wind speed will decrease. For this one, you want to think about the video. And again, it paused. You want to think about the video that we saw and what we learned in this part.
The intensity of the light would be less.
Right? Look at where is it colder or where is it hotter? Think of where people go on vacation, right? Think of the seasons. Where is it colder? To be able to answer that question. So let me go back to it. All right, so try answering this question. I'll give you 2 minutes to give an answer. All right, I have 4 answers. Still waiting on 6 answers. Does anyone have a question about this, about understanding what it's saying in the question before you answer? let me check. What? Sorry, guys. This is not working properly. Okay, there you go. So to answer this question, you have to think, what happens at the equator of the Earth? Is it hotter or is it colder? At the equator, that means the middle of Earth.
Hotter.
Hotter, okay. Is North Carolina above the equator or below the equator? I couldn't hear you if you were sharing. Is it above the equator or below?
Above.
Above the equator, very good. Now, what happens in the North Pole? Is it cold or is it hot?
It's cold.
Right, exactly. So we have the North Pole right here. We have North Carolina, and then we have the equator, so it's in the middle. So that means the equator, or the hot part of Earth, is below North Carolina or south of it. So if the North Pole is north of it, so if the winds are coming from the north, then North Carolina is going to be cold or hot.
Cold.
And if the winds are coming from the south or the equator, they're going to be what?
Hot.
Hot.
Yeah, it's going to be hot. Exactly. So the correct answer for this one is A. The temperatures will increase. Okay, any questions about this one? Alrighty. Okay, now I'm going to show you the other questions. These are things we already went over in class. So if you feel like you're good and you don't need to go over these questions, you can sign out. But if you would like to go over this question, which statement best explains how a bacterial cell is capable of surviving as a single cell organism? Or which of these traits is most influenced by a person's environment? Which is most likely the reason parents and their children have similar physical traits? Which statement best describes how a multicellular organism survives? Or what is the relationship between the respiratory and circulatory system? So if you want to go over that, please stay. Amari, please stay. If not, then I will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, Amari. How's it going?
Bye, Miss Janos.
Bye, Isabella. Isaiah, can you come back in a few minutes? I have an appointment with Amari, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. How are you, Amari?
Good.
Okay, so let's go see some of your work. Are there any assignments that you feel that you need to go over, or maybe some of the test prep specifically for the week? Hold on a second. Okay, so let's go look at some of the assignments. I can't hear you very well, Amari.
I'm in the car.
Okay. Okay. Are you gonna be somewhere soon? Or, like, do you want to reschedule so that we can sit down and do it? Or
I'll ask my grandma.
yeah, ask.